So here. This is your life! Are you ready?
Are you there? I can't see you.
This is your life! Bob Llewellyn! Bishop Bob Llewellyn! You have waited for this day. You thought you would never be in this position, but you are here. And we are here to learn about your life. Things that you don't want anybody to know about, we will know here tonight.
All good.
I need 1, 2, and 3 to go to the hall, please. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? You guys know your numbers. I know you do. 1, 2, and 3 to go to the halls. Go to the halls. Go to the halls. Okay, we're going to start from your itty-bitty grounds here in Phoenix, and we're going to work your way up to the present day. Okay? We all know that you didn't have the companionship of a brother and sister, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
But there is something, someone that was as dear to you as a brother and sister could be. This person ate with you. This person played with you. This person never talked back to you. This person slept with you and kept you warm when it was cold. We're bringing in your long-lost dog, Putsy! This is Bob's long-lost dog. He lived with this dog. This was his brother, and this was his sister right here. Tell us about Putsy. What kind of dog was Putsy?
Putsy.
Putsy, not Putsy. Putsy.
He had many names.
Who named him?
Who named him? My grandpa.
Your grandpa named him Putsy?
Yep.
Okay, what kind of dog?
He was a Boston Bull Terrier.
Boston Bull Terrier.
Yep.
It was a good dog.
He was a good dog.
Did you feed the dog?
He liked to, yes.
Putsy, did he feed you? Yes, all right. All right, thanks, Putsy. We appreciate you coming back to visit with us today. All right. And that's a little lost. Putsy, let's get Putsy in here. All right. Okay, well, you started to grow a little older. You got involved in the church programs like all good LDS little boys do. And then he turned 12 and he became a what?
Boy Scout.
Boy Scout. Something to be feared. And all would have it that he was a perfect Boy Scouter, right? Come on in, Scouts. We brought your old Scout troop back.
Hey, they're here.
To tell about some of your deeds, right? Tell us, how was this Scout?
Well, this was part of my sleeping bag that Bob blew up with the cherry bomb.
There was not a cherry bomb.
This is it? This is what the child had to sleep in after you blew it up?
It was not a cherry bomb.
What was it?
It was an M80.
What did they do to you after this, or did they ever catch you?
I don't know. I had this great idea, and I had never lit an M80.
Yeah, never.
Never,
Never, ever. Only once?
And I forgot to fray the waterproofing on the
Yeah.
fuse. And I was up on a hill, and I was going to throw it across the whole camp. And down this hill was all of our sleeping bags and everything. So I sat there. This is about a 1/4-inch stick of dynamite. And I lit it, and it wasn't working. And somebody up there was watching out for me, because there was a little imperfection in the waterproofing, and it was burning all the way down through the thing, and I was holding it, waiting it to flare. And about a 1/4 inch before it went inside, it flared out at the bottom. And I went, oh!
Uh-oh.
And I went boing, 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 onto my friend's sleeping bag and put a 12-inch hole right through it.
There's a hole right there in the sleeping
Had
bag.
it been for that imperfection, I don't know where I'd be.
It's still, just for that one incident, you would have been the perfect Scout. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us about his cooking preparations. Come on here. What was he like in your troop when he
One
cooked?
time he was cooking, see, and he took a piece of meat and he would drop it on the ground. And then he'd take it and he'd wash it off, and then he'd drop it off again, and then he'd clean it off again.
Is that
That's
true?
right.
You did that?
I was getting my cooking merit badge at Camp Geronimo. And when our troop went up, we had what they call the B plan, where we cooked for ourselves. We ate like kings. And this night, I had to cook a roast, and it was about this big around. And it had one of those pots, one of those pans, and it had one of those handles that were hooked under there.
Yeah.
And I picked it up, and I went like this, and the pan went on the ground, and it went rolling through the dirt. And we had about, and the merit badge required, I would have to do it alone with no help. So there was 8 other scouts in my patrol going, oh no, hungry scouts. So I looked at him, I picked it up, I turned on the spigot and I washed it off and I dried it off and I put it in the pan and I went like this and I tripped and it went down again. Now it's wet and muddy and it's rolling down this hill. We're looking at it, we picked it up, washed it off again, I put it in the middle of the table, I said, eat it. I got my merit badge.
Thanks for coming back to visit with us, Scout Troop. That's great. Okay, well, you progressed a little bit in Scouts, and you're very athletic, and you belong to Little League Baseball! Tell us, what kind of baseball player was he on your team?
Well, he was the greatest fourth grade pitcher in the Little League All-Stars.
He was a pitcher? Is that true? You pitched?
Yep,
Fast pitch?
this is baseball.
Baseball,
Overhand.
like fast pitch
Yep.
overhand.
Yep.
And you went to All-Stars?
Yep.
You did?
Yep.
All right. How'd you do in All-Stars?
Okay.
Okay, you did all right.
Yep.
All right. He's a good baseball player. Appreciate that. Okay, I need 4, 5, and 6 to kind of go to the hall there. 4, 5, and 6. You remember who 4, 5, and 6 is?
Can I tell my one baseball story?
Yeah, you got it great. Go ahead.
Well, when I was 13, I got in the next league up in Little League. And I had just found my curveball. And I didn't know how to throw it very well. And it was really kind of fun. And nobody on the team had ever seen a curveball before. And the coach's kid, who was a good friend of mine, he was our best batter. And so I was up there pitching batting practice, and the coach knew I had developed this curveball. And so we sat up there, and I threw the ball right at my friend's shoulder, of which he backed out of the box, and it curved and went right over the plate for a strike. And his dad was catching, and he stood up and just cussed his kid out. You ever back out of a curveball, you're in trouble with me, son. And he just really laid into him. So I said, well, I'll get him this time. This is my good friend, of course.
Yeah.
So I wound up, and I decided I would make it look like a curveball, but I'd throw a real slow straight ball right over the plate. Him thinking it would curve outside. Then it would just kind of float past him over the plate, and maybe we could get him struck out. So I reared back, and I threw this ball. Of course, even when you throw a slow pitch, it goes pretty fast. Well, not being one for control, I accidentally threw it right at his shoulder. And he sat there and remembered what his dad said. He stepped right into it. He went, caught him right in the armpit. He went like this and it dropped down like that. And his dad was playing catcher, and he rolled back and rolled about 3 times laughing. It was so doggone funny. The next time we walked out the next day for practice, hey, Llewellyn, look what you did. Big old bruise, right?
Bruce right there. You injured your best friend. We'll have to ask him about the curveball, won't we? Now have to let him throw it to us. That's a great story.
Was it Reggie?
Well, he worked through the years, he played baseball, he got into some other supports, and he had a couple people that were helping him along the way, guiding him through every footsteps when he first walked, first talked, taking him to the baseball games. And who else could it be but your mom and dad? Come on in, Mom, come on in, Dad. Well, we've got your mom and your dad to tell us just a little bit about your childhood.
Uh-oh.
What are some of your earliest remembers there, Mom Llewellyn?
Oh, well, when he was about 3 or 4, I saw him playing out on the street, and I just took him and I whipped him so hard, and he was just crying all day. And then that night I went in my room, and I think I cried harder than he did.
So did he go on the street again after that?
No.
No, he did. No, he's still on the street. No, not to this day.
All right, not this day.
All right. Dad Llewellyn, tell us about him as a boy.
I remember when he was about really tall. 8 or 9 or 10 or something. I think it was 9 or 10. And we went to Disneyland? Yeah, Disneyland. And I hated it the whole time. I just never liked Disneyland. Stayed about 30 minutes, and he thought it was a great time and everything. And after 30 minutes, we about left. I just couldn't stand it there.
About 30 minute trip to Disneyland. Is
No,
that
it was a little
right?
longer than that.
Bishop, about an hour. Huh? You spent an hour there. And that was
That's
enough.
great.
That was enough Disneyland for you. Oh, we're glad they went through the years they did. Well, we got a couple other people here to tell us a few more stories. Thanks, Dad.
Hello. It sure is.
Right.
Now all the real stories come out.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
that's right. What can you tell us about Bishop Bob here? You want to share? You want to put the chair here? Here.
I
was almost not being a cripple, and then I fell and broke my arm, and now I'm back being a cripple.
Have a seat there.
There you go.
Well, since you're talking about baseball, did you tell them about having the home run when you went to the reunion?
Reunion, what
He was
was
5 years old,
Yeah?
and they were trying to have a baseball. And he wasn't sure whose side he was on or anything. No one could hit the ball. He came up here going by Darney Hill. And I said, run to first. Over he went to first, and some kid was already standing there. So they yelled, go to second, Bob. And he ran to second. And they finally found the ball and threw it, but the second baseman lost it and went in the trees. So they said, run to third, run to third. He got to third, they couldn't find the ball, and everybody was screaming, come on home, Bob. So he got a home run.
First base hit, huh?
About 5 years old.
Oh, that's great.
My last one.
Last home run all the way around. So how was he as a child? Was he an obedient child or a rebellious
Yes, he
child?
was. But he came in one day and he said, Mom, come watch me do something dangerous. We had a fence with a yard with a 6-foot fence around it. And I went up and he climbed up this thing like a alligator or something. He just went up there and got up and stood on the top shelf and jumped. And I had told him never to do that. I said, you can break your arms or your legs or something. When he jumped, he got up and said, see, I didn't break anything. And I had a little switch. I just pulled it off the trees and I switched his bare legs and he went in the house crying. I cried more than he did the first time I'd ever spanked him in his house. And I said, why did you do it? And he said, well, I wanted you to see it wouldn't hurt me. And I said, well, it couldn't hurt you. Now, I don't know if he ever jumped off the fence again, but he never came in and told me about it.
He's still doing dangerous things today. I mean, he's bishop. You can't get much more dangerous than that.
I guess that's all.
That's great.
She's a great one, Robert, to tell about something broken falling down.
Yeah, jumping off the fences again, I see.
Well, Mr. Bishop, do you want the good or the bad?
I'm gonna get both, aren't I?
Oh, just the good.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything about this, but, you know, he has a new son. His name is Stevie. And there he is back there. And when Robert was his age, I think he was just a splitting image of Stevie. Stevie?
Was he acting
Go see Grandpa.
Yeah.
He was.
see Grandpa.
Well, and you know, Stevie does something that makes me think of Robert. And Stevie now goes around and he turns things. He gets the TV and he turns it on. He gets the radio, turn it on. Anything's got a knob on, he'll go around and just turn it. And that's the way Robert was when he was a little kid. I carried Robert out of the old...
Don't hit Grandma. Don't hit Grandma.
the old St. Joseph Hospital, about 40 years ago or more. You're stealing my show.
Jared.
And we lived in a row of apartment houses up on about Camelback and Central. When Robert was about 1 year old, he got to walking, and he would go around to the various apartments and visit with the people. And I'm sure that while he was visiting with them, they'd give him candy or something, cookies to eat, and he got to be quite the guy out here in that apartment. But going back to the knob turning, there was one lady that lived across the way from us, across the lawn, that had a TV, and she had about the only TV in the apartment group up there. Well, one day she'd been away, she come back and she heard her TV going. And I was out in the front and she said, well, my TV's going. So we run over there. There sit Robert in the chair and he'd got in her apartment and turned on the TV. But you know, Robert has always been a person that has liked people. and people generally like him. And we're very proud that he can do that, and one of these days, why, he might get somebody that is not so friendly.
Gotta be a few in this ward, right?
As he gets older. I can say that because of myself. When I got older, I got a little touchy, you know, and that's the way Robert made it. As long as he's the bishop, I think he'll do well. But Robert, what I wanted to say was, it was just about 20 years ago that the company asked me to go on a business trip in Europe.
Yeah.
And I went over there, and lo and behold, about the same time I went, Robert was on his mission in England. So I went over there and did my work, and finally had a couple of days left, so I said, well, I'll check in with Robert in England. So I went over there and had arranged with him to be ahead, or be available. And, first day, while we just talked, and I visited with some of the missionaries, and we went to dinner, but the next day kind of threw me. He decided that he would take me out and show me some of the sights around Birmingham, I think is where he was. Hey. So he said he'd get some transportation. So I waited at his office, and lo and behold, here come a Volkswagen Beetle up the street. Sure enough, there was Robert driving the Beetle. Well, I'd never ridden in one of those booming things. But I got in with him, and we started out. And by the time he got on that, I don't remember what they call the freeways over there.
Motorways.
Yeah. When we got to that, I'm telling you, I wasn't sure in that Volkswagen whether we were flying or and that went on, but we finally got back, and one thing, that over there on those freeways, why, it's terribly fast traffic. And
Go on. People are waiting.
well, it's terribly fast traffic, and it wasn't only that it was a Volkswagen that we was riding in, but over there, you know, you have to drive on the wrong side of the street. And on the left side, so all of that really got me.
You remember what happened when you first tried to get into it? He walked up and opened the door, and he was trying to get in the wrong side. He said, "Do you want to drive?" It's confusing.
You couldn't catch me driving on those things. But I could go on with a lot of stories to tell about Robert, but I think I better give up and let somebody take over the program.
Well, we sure appreciate you guys coming. We appreciate that son you raised, because he sure helps us a lot. Let's give a hand to one guy for Yeah, come on and have a seat here. No, wait, the picture.
How about them over on the other side?
Got it?
No. No.
Well, you had good guidance through the years, and they raised you, and you got through junior high, and you're into high school, and you got into high school, and you were a good student. You're so good, in fact, that you took algebra. So we have Mr. Inman, your algebra high school teacher, to tell us
Oh
about
my
it.
goodness sakes, you sure do. Surprise this is. This is probably the best math teacher in the face of the earth. And I'll tell you something, he's responsible in a lot of ways for me getting through engineering school.
How about
Just
that?
one clarification is he taught calculus in high school, and that's what I took from him. And believe it or not, he made it fun. And he knows that, everyone knows
Okay,
that.
should I kind of dress this up or just tell it the way it was?
I don't know. I don't know.
I had my wife look up in a storeroom there and got out a roll of yearbooks. Hoofbeats, 1966, 25 years ago. And this is the one that has some of Bob's things that, can I call you Bob?
You betcha.
Okay. I Xeroxed off a few pictures here. There he is right down there. Is he good looking?
Give me that.
He can short change.
No, no.
Put it in the camera.
That's wrong.
Put it in the camera.
You guys want to see that?
I'll pass it around.
He did curricular, extracurricular activity. And I can't see very far ahead, so I just jotted these down. He was on the homecoming committee for 2 years. This is his senior year, 1966. He was on the elections committee a year. And he was elected from his class for 3 years to serve on the student council. And probably one of the outstanding things, clubs they belong to is the Key Club. And let's see, we should have a picture. You gotta hold that one. Here's a picture of the Key Club here, about 20, and there's a little girl, one girl in that. I don't know how they got her in there.
I think she was our
Anyway,
sweetheart.
they sponsored the Hangman's Hop. This is a dance. Don't think it is. Sponsored the Hangman's Hop here, and here he is standing on this ladder, hanging up a dummy up on the wall, and the caption down here says, Bob Llewellyn, Key Club President, considered taking Alan Wong's suggestion to substitute Mike Peacock for the hanging dummy. Here's Mike Peacock. And so the things that this Key Club did were, they were connected with the Kiwanis, and they had a lot of service, community service projects, as well as school. Here are some of the things that they did. They parked cars, for one thing, at the PTA open house, and the parents came down and saw the teachers and that type of thing. They served that way. They were guides in freshman orientation week. And by the way, Bob was the president of this club here the last year he was there. They sponsored the Hangman's Hop. And then this, they made quite a little note in this little article here about how the Key Club had gathered, collected 1,100 pounds of food, including grapefruit, canned goods and grapefruit, and took them during the Christmas vacation down to an orphanage in Mexico. One of the things that seemed to me as I read through these extracurricular activities was that his middle name should have been Service. He was of service to the school. I should mention here that the next thing that's outstanding here on him was that he went into sports. In his freshman year, he lettered in basketball and baseball, and then he switched over to golf. Here he is, kind of skinny right in there, and he's short. He's making a little 8-foot putt there, and he looked pretty smiling, like he was really enjoying it. In the background there is the Tafago Park golf course over there. And so here's these. And then the last 3 years, he he served on the golf team, played for North High on the golf team for 3 years. I put the picture of the math department here. Some of the kids have written in my annual there. Here, I really am not left-handed here, writing on the chalkboard here. They must have got the negative turned over when they printed it here. It looks like I'm writing that thing with the left hand. But the things that I remember about Bob, and I've just got these down, I want to call your attention to them. He was a good math student. He took our upper division courses that prepared for science and for engineering and that type of thing. He set his goal as to what he wanted to do, and he stuck with that. I always admired him. He was well liked by the kids, by his classmates. He was well liked by his teachers. I never had a moment's worry about him. And with all these extracurricular activities, he found time, or he took time to get his studies and to do a good job with math. He was friendly, well liked, he was outgoing, studied a lot, made good use of his time, set a goal to become an engineer, and he did. Nice personality, and above all, he loved and cared for people. And I can see the Lord's work calling him to be a bishop. He has a great deal of love, and compassion, and care for people, and in service to others. And that was the thing that stands out of my mind. Along with my math, he'll probably remember this, and I've got a couple of pages here of things that I'd put on the chalkboard each morning. Every year I was there at North High, I put on the chalkboard a little saying, a little quip, joke, or something that would just kind of mix a little spice in with the math. I called it Foolosophy, F-O-O, philosophy. And let me just read some of these. Don't kiss your girl under the mistletoe. It's more fun under the nose. Confucius say, man who sits on egg, yolk is on him. The average boy's arm is 28 inches long. The average girl's waist is 28 inches around. Ain't nature wonderful? Confucius say, to get chaff off lips, slap face. Symmetry, a well-balanced graveyard. Trigonometry, when you marry 3 wives at the same time. She, let me chew your gum. Her, he, which one, upper or lower? She says she feels like as young as a colt, but she looks more like an old 45. And then there was the doorbell that married the electric shaver. Result, a little humdinger. Said one nostril to the other nostril, shall we settle it with blows or just let the matter drop? Get out of the garbage can, Grandma. You know you're not appealing. When he promoted from the 5th to the 6th grade, he could hardly shave himself without
No, you can't have it.
Okay. Horse, an 1890 Oldsmobile with a choo-choo automatic. Doctors say that exercise will kill germs, but how do you get the little devil's exercise? High heels were invented by a woman who was always being kissed on the forehead. Puppy love, the beginning of a dog's life. Mummy, an Egyptian pressed for time. Saint, a dead sinner revised and edited. Confucius say, ears not made to shut, mouth is. Used to have a little, once in a while, a little verse. I eat my peas with honey, I've done it all my life. It makes the peas taste funny, but it keeps them on my knife. When you're dancing with your honey and your nose gets kind of runny and you think it's kind of funny, well, it's not. Roses are red, violets are blue. The rain on the roof reminds me of you. Drip, drip. Love is like a poker game. It takes a pair to open. She gets a flush. He shows diamonds, and it ends in a full house. 'Twas in a restaurant they met, this Romeo and Juliet. He had no cash to pay the debt, so Romeo'd while Juliet. Had a boy in class that didn't do much work, but he was kind of a poet, and he revised the 23rd Psalm. And this is what he wrote on his exam, the final exam. Mr. Edmund is my teacher, I shall not pass. He maketh me to do hard problems for my great sake. He prepareth the test for me in the presence of my classmates. He giveth me a low grade, my sorrow runneth over. Yea, though I study until midnight, I shall gain no knowledge. For definitions and formulas, they sorely trouble me. Surely sadness and gloom shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall remain in these Oxford class forever.
I remember that.
That's me. I know.
Yeah, sit at the back.
Oh, okay. Bob, it's a pleasure, and I appreciate you coming here, and I have lots of fond memories of you, and I know you're a great bishop.
Well, thank you very much. I love you. Thank you very much. You guys know that Dale Inman, this is his dad. He's in
And
the state.
graduate the same class.
That's right. We went to school together and same class. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. Just to give you an insight, when you go to engineering school, you take calculus your first semester, you take calculus again second semester, hopefully it's a different class. You take calculus your third semester, and I was in halfway through the third semester in engineering school when I learned something new in math that I hadn't learned in high school. Thank you.
6, 7, 8, 9 to go on out to the hall. 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yes.
Okay. Your teacher, Mr. Inman, brought up a few things about what you did through high school and stuff, and they mentioned that you were a Key Club president. Is that right? Key Club president. We brought back a member of your Key Club.
Uh-oh.
Right here. Come on in here. Here's one of the Key Club members, and this is, you received this, did you go to New York to get this? Convention? Now I gotta ask, when you park the cars for the parents, it's like, oh yeah, we'll park the cars for the parents when they go to visit the teachers. I mean, how much rubber did you burn? Or
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure we had fun doing it.
Was he a pretty good member?
Yeah.
Yeah, you make you guys work hard? That's great. Oh, we appreciate you coming here.
Oh, this was, we got entered into a talent contest. A friend of mine thought he was the world's greatest singer, and I accompanied him on the piano. And we practiced and practiced and got to the regional tournament or contest and won that, and that gave us an automatic entry into the national, international, I guess they call it, in New York City that year. And boy, we practiced and practiced and practiced to sing these songs. We got out there, and I was nervous, and he was just Mr. Cool about the whole thing. And we were going on in front of probably about 2,000 people. And he walked out there and forgot the words, and I just, we just played on. I wasn't nervous after that, so we had a great time.
Well, what the heck?
We came about
point,
third
right?
or fourth, so it was fun.
Well, you had some other close friends growing up through your childhood, and usually they're a boy. Usually you have a boy childhood friend, but we're bringing back a childhood friend right now.
Oh my goodness.
This is
Jeanette.
Jeanette.
Oh,
This is
my
a
goodness.
childhood friend
So good to see you.
that we brought back.
Jack here? Oh, yeah. How are you? You know my mother, of course.
Yes, I know your mother.
Mr. Inman?
What happened to Mr. Inman?
Yeah,
There he
yeah.
is. Hi.
Were we in the same class together?
Are we in the same class together?
In calculus?
In
Did we?
calculus, yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
Tell us about it.
When he says, are we in the same class together, we were in the same class together from 3rd grade all the way through 8th grade, and then about 3 or 4 more classes in high school. And in the same primary classes, and in the same Sunday school classes, for years and years and years. Bob was just kind of like a part of our family when we were growing up. When his mom and dad had to go out of town, he came down and stayed at our house to have dinner, and then one of my folks would take him back up to his house afterwards and stay there with him overnight so he could take care of his dog. But I remember one time Bob was down at our house. We had grapefruit trees in our yard.
Here it comes.
A lot of them. And one spring we were picking off the last of the grapefruit because the new ones were setting on. And Bob was way up in the tree helping us pull off grapefruit, and he reached for what he thought was a little old shriveled up grapefruit from the year before, grabbed a handful of hornet's nest and pulled it off. It was not a happy camper.
5 times they nailed me before I got out of that tree. All in the back of my neck.
That was not really fun.
But I came down one tree real fast.
Real fast. Good thing it was an easy climbing tree and you could get down really easily. Let's see, what else? We were in the 4th grade. Marilyn told me to tell you things that would make him seem like he wasn't really perfect.
I didn't know that.
She said all the people in this world think Bob is really perfect, so tell us some things that'll make him realize he's not. When we were in the 4th grade, he spent the whole year trying to convince our teacher, who was a strange but wonderful man, that his name was really Trebor, and they had it all mixed up. Trebor, that's Robert backwards. So he's kind of poor traitor.
I learned that in Cub Scouts. Came out of Cub Scouts. We put on a skit at the old Scottsdale Ward, and I remember up there on that stage, and I don't remember what this play was about. It was something like outer space people, and all of our names were our own names backwards.
Well, that's what I was thinking, that in my mind it was connecting Trebor with being from outer space, and I couldn't think, no, he really wouldn't say that. Mr. Hosfield would never buy that, but I guess he really did. Let's see, what else can I say? Piano, I don't know, have you said anything about Bob playing the piano? Does he ever play the piano? Does anybody ever hear him play the piano once in a while? I don't know when he started, but I guess we were probably close to high school before I realized that he could play the piano. I never said much about it before that. I could play the piano too. When it came to playing hymns, I could play better than he could because he didn't read music really well. But he could sit down at the piano and just make all the girls positively melt with the things that would come out from under his fingers. He would play all the Beatles songs, the really nice ones that Girl and I Love Her and Yesterday, plus he played Ebb Tide and Exodus. Those are the ones that I remember the best. He played at all of the church talent shows, and all the girls would go, oh.
I didn't know that.
Just not playing. He also had a lot more hair than he has.
I've installed the sunroof.
Lots of dark hair. I was trying to find, I had an old autograph album when I was about in 7th grade, I guess, and I had all the kids in our 7th grade class signing it. And I just found it. We've been cleaning out boxes at our house, and this was about 3 weeks ago. And I found this autograph book, and I had put pictures of everybody on the page that they wrote on. And I looked through it and found the one that Bob wrote, and it got put in a keepsake box, and they were not labeled as to what was in them, and there's about 5 of them up in the attic, and I couldn't find it again when this time had come. But it said on the page, started up in this corner, when you're lying in the bushes and sitting in the hedges, remember Bob Llewellyn rode around the edges, all around and it has this 7th grade picture right in the middle that you can see lots of dark hair. In fact, he looked a whole lot like Robbie. I said, I saw a kid out there in a scout shirt, and I said to Cammie, that's one of your brothers. It's just what your dad looked like. When we were, gosh, it must have been the summer just after we graduated from high school. We were doing road shows that year. Is that
Yeah, 1 or 2.
maybe a year later after that. But we did a road show where Bob was the star of the road show, and he was this old hobo who was trying to find out the secret to happiness, or trying to find a wife. He was trying to find a wife, that's what it was. And he was looking around and trying all these different people, and nobody was just right. They all had some kind of problem somewhere. And finally at the very end, he was wandering through the woods. At the very end, all the little woods people and flowers brought me out, and I was a lady hobo who was out looking for happiness, and we decided that this was going to be the perfect match. And it was really a good road show, wasn't it? Sat down in the audience to wait the judging afterwards, and they called us up to come up and get our trophy that we won because we were so good. And Bob grabbed the hand of the passion flower, who was the girl that couldn't say no, and ran up onto the stage and left this leading lady sitting down there with all the rest of the cast. Of course, he was dating her. Well, that was it.
Who was that?
Jan?
Rich.
Jan Rich.
She's in our state.
Let's see. When, let's see, Bob went home teaching with my dad from the time he turned 14 until my younger brother did, which was about 3 years later. So my folks really think a lot of him too.
Good, thank you, Sue.
I guess that's about all I can tell.
That's great. We're great. she helped you through some of your childhood,
She sure
your
did.
high school, and
Jeanette and her family were always an example of it.
always there.
You know, really great.
That's great. We really appreciate people like that. She mentioned that you were on the golf team. Is that right?
Yep.
They said you were a hot golfer. We brought back one of your golf buddies. Come on in here. You were your golf buddy
Oh,
back
yeah.
in high school. Tell us, what kind of golfer was he?
He was really good. One day, he beat this guy in a tournament, and later that guy became a professional golfer. And so he's kind of better than a pro.
I said that.
When I was 14.
14. Well, can you feel like a pro when he's 14 or 30? Who cares? It still counts, right? What's this right here?
It's a trophy.
Let's see, what kind of trophy you got here? Oceanside Golf Course, hole number 3, 5 hours. Is this a hole-in-one? Hole-in-one trophy right there, guys. Whoa, yeah. He's a hot golfer. Let's give him a hand. Okay, well, about during that period of time, they showed that you were very musically talented. You played the piano, you sang, you wooed the girls and all this. And at that point in time, there was nothing else you could do but form a rock and roll band. And we brought back
All
your
right.
band, the Khaki Hargraves Requiem.
Yeah.
What kind of name? Come on, guys. Come on in here,
Wow.
man. And I've got a gal here. This is Shirley. They brought Shirley. They Shirley. They really hard for your band. Is that right?
Yeah, Shirley did.
You're blushing. I know. Shirley had a crush on you. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And what, I understand you made Shirley carry all your equipment to and from your band. Is that right?
Yep.
Dump the bricks on him.
Yep, the bricks.
Dump the bricks and get in with the guy.
Oh.
You got your band here, and how did you get that name?
Made it up.
Khaki Hargraves, the Beatles were the big thing then. And John Lennon wrote a poem about some crazy guy named Khaki Hargraves. And in the poem, he dies. So we were the Khaki Hargraves Requiem, which we thought was very creative. And today is very embarrassing.
That's great. What kind of player was he, you guys? Was he awesome? Was he good?
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty thick.
All right, guys. We're gonna, let's hear it for the Khaki Hargraves. Didn't know we'd bring back Shirley, did ya?
Not Shirley. I'd forgotten Shirley, believe me. You
Well,
think I was rude to you that time? You see how I was with Shirley.
Well, Bob really thought he was hot stuff when he was in high school.
somebody else thought he was really hot also because he met up with a gal and started dating her, and her name was Marilyn. So we're going to bring Marilyn back in here to tell me a story about some of their dating experiences.
Hi, man.
So tell me, what kind of date was he? Tell me what it was like dating this guy.
Well, I remember one time I was going out with this guy, Jim Poirot. We were like, I didn't even want to go out with the guy. But I was thinking about canceling the date, but then I thought, nah, I better get to the date. So he took me to one of his gigs. He was playing in the band, and it was called Khaki Hargraves, whatever, Requiem. And so I went with him, and he was playing this gig. It was North High's all-night graduation party. And he introduced me to this guy, Bob. And I told him my name was Gertrude, and he believed me. And I thought that was really neat to have this honest guy who would believe me, even though I told him my name was Gertrude. But anyway, we started dating from then on, and then it took me 5 years. I waited through his mission for him. And finally, I convinced him to marry me. And I guess the rest is history.
All right, that's good. We're sure glad you started dating this guy. I guess it was the band together, right? Thanks for coming in your younger years. I love that suit. Isn't that great? 11, 12, 13. I need you guys out if you're not ready there. Okay, 5 years. Well, you should have known her by then, right? She's the only one in that 5-year period, or?
Pretty much. Well, I was on my mission for 2 of them.
Oh, okay, all right. It's got to be pretty much that one. Well, you dated Marilyn, and then right in the middle you decided to go on a mission. And we brought back one of your missionary.
Oh, Hello.
And we just kind of want to know a little bit. What mission did he go to?
The Central British Mission. There's his plaque.
Okay. And tell me about him. How was he a good missionary?
Oh, he's the best. He's real enthusiastic. We have the Welsh flag.
That's the Welsh flag?
Welsh
Welsh
flag.
flag? Okay.
And a picture of where his mission was. North Wales.
North Wales?
And my best experience with him was when he came down with the flu in bed. And we didn't want to catch it, so we all went to a movie.
Yeah.
And left him in bed. Kind of snuck out.
Was it a good movie?
Oh, it was better.
Yeah.
Without him.
Zelda Darby. I know who this is.
You know who
My
it is?
district
You
leader.
still remember the guy that
Yeah.
left you with the flu, huh?
104 temperature.
And they left you.
Every 2 days sick, 104 temperature.
And they didn't
And
take care of you.
The newspaper's talking about 35-year-old policemen dying from this flu. This is bad flu. This is Hong Kong flu, the real McCoy. And I was in trouble. I couldn't get out of bed. And he's, well, Elder, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to the movie with the rest of the guys. So I slept there for about 4 hours, not just delirious from this stuff. I never let you forget it.
But they didn't catch the flu, right? No, that's great. Let's hear it for that. Well, we brought back another missionary companion to tell us some real stories that we just couldn't get from their wife.
dear.
Yeah, we did. Come on in here.
Hi, Jack. How are you
This
guys?
is Jack Marsh, one of these companions.
I'm excellent. Good to see you. I'm what? I know, you're getting it here too. It all goes comes around.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see. Do I get to tell them how you were really liking the mission?
Please don't.
Oh, please don't.
I want to be nice to you, real nice to you.
He was, first image I have, Bishop Llewellyn, was I went to the train station to pick him up, and there was street level, and there was this, where the train got out. And he came around the corner at the top of the stairs, and he had 2 bags, one in each hand, a third bag here, his scriptures under here, a tote over his arm, and his glasses kind of down like this, his black suit. And I said, hello, Elder Llewellyn. And we didn't have the name tags at that point. And his comment was, how did you know it was me? And somebody said he was enthusiastic, and he was. It took him down the stairs and started to take him to the apartment. And I says, you have to be careful in England because cars they go the opposite direction. He said, no problem. So we're walking back to our place we live, and they have roundabouts, which means those cars go in, 4 roads meet or 5 roads meet, and cars go in and they go around counterclockwise, clockwise. So when you step out, you know, normally when you step off the street here, you look left and then right. Well, there you have to look right and left. And so Bob immediately got to one of these roundabouts and looked left and stepped, and I was able to grab his arm just in time for a bus to miss him that went to the right. So I was convinced that he wasn't going to make it for 2 years, but we got back, and he does have enthusiasm. It was the afternoon, and as usual, it looked like it was going to rain. And he needed a bike. And it just so happens that my previous companion had left his bike, so he was able to have this bike. The only problem was the seat was soldered, and the previous companion was about 6'3". So poor Bob, with all his enthusiasm, gets on this bike, and we ride out to our first appointments, up and down roads, and he's stretching. Just his toes can just barely touch. And about halfway there it starts to rain. By the time we get there, we're soaking wet, just soaked to the skin. When you've been there a while, you don't notice it, but Bob tried to ignore it. We went up to our appointment. Of course, it failed, as it often does. It fell through. And we then tracked. Bob was ready to go back home at that point. And so we only tracked for, I think, 2.5 hours after that night. And then I took him back to the apartment. And he was convinced after having ride there. He woke up the next morning. He said he wasn't stiff. However, I still to this day don't believe him. Because he had ridden that
I
bike.
was sore.
But I want you to know, he was one of the most enthusiastic missionaries that I've ever known. He had a great testimony. He had the opportunity to bear that testimony and baptize his whole mission, and particularly family that was there when we were there. And I want you to know that I really do love the man. He really has a spirit about him. I was looking for a picture before I came. Just before I came home. And I was standing there. I'll have to describe it to you because it describes the way Bob went through his whole mission. I had been out 2 years and had a suit that was 2 years old. Stood up in the corner and walked to me every morning. He was in this new suit. Had been out for less than 3 months. And he had his glasses on. They were back down to here. He had his scriptures. Does he still call his scriptures the pillow?
They got stolen.
Somebody stole his scriptures.
Yeah.
When he had scriptures, he called them his pillow. And holding his pillow and standing there with all the enthusiasm, and in great contrast to me, who was just leaving for the mission room, so I didn't care anymore. So it even looked more contrasting, but he really did have a wonderful mission. He went from me to the missionaries and did an excellent job. I just want you to know what a neat guy was.
Thanks, Jack. You young men and some of you good young women who will go on missions, I hope you all pray that you have a good senior companion. And if you have one that's half as good as Elder Marsh, your prayers will have been answered. The strongest missionary, the hardest working missionary I knew in all my 2 years, just lived everything right. He taught me well and set me on a good course, and so I've always appreciated that.
That's right. We appreciate you coming.
We can't show him.
Can't show the slides.
We can't show him.
Well, thank you.
Don't show him his book, everybody.
Well, you went on your mission. You came back and you went to school. ASU, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and he went into electrical engineering. He brought an old professor back. Professor from the engineering department. Tell us, what kind of engineering student was he out there at college? He was just great. Good grades or bad grades?
He got good grades.
Yeah, what's this here? Is this,
Well, he won this in the electric engineering. He was the electronic engineering person.
Student of the year, is that right? That's engineering student of the year? That's right. Good grades and everything. And we owe part of it to your tutelage, right?
That's right.
That's right. We appreciate it.
Thank
President, for coming today. So you were president of the IEEE? Is that what it's called?
Ada Kappa Nu.
Is that for engineering students or for
Left one.
just electrical engineering students, right? You finished top of the group, right?
This is Tau Beta Pi, same thing.
That's great. You did all right. Good student. Okay. In college, you came back, got through his mission, and remember old Marilyn that he was dating back there for 5 years? Well, finally, he married her. So we're going to bring out your married wife, Marilyn. Yay! We'll help get some of these guys here.
Who are you?
All right, Marilyn, give us some dirt.
That's the stuff I can't. You mean all the times we go, oh no, I can't tell you about that. Or the time you proposed, no, I can't tell you about that. No, I met Bob like Tammy told you, and I thought he was absolutely wonderful, especially when he was gullible enough to believe my name was Gertrude and didn't make fun of me. I really thought, no, this is a neat person. But then he turned around and thought my father was my grandfather. So but it's been a lot of fun because we grew up together and didn't even realize it. My mom was his mother's visiting teacher for a while when I was just a little kid, and so it's been a lot of fun. But mostly, I will just tell you girls, you watch who you date because someday he may be a bishop. So you got to live up to it. And boys, you watch who you date because someday you may be a bishop. So you make sure that you only do things that are worthy of future bishops and bishop wives. I think that's the thing that I would give as my one bit of advice. Thanks everyone for coming. We really, really appreciate it. Brother Inman, they always called him Mr. Inman, Jeanette said, all the time. It was a real a sign of affection, I think. And the Marshes, that was really nice of you to come. And of course, his mom and dad. We appreciate it. Thank you. Do you want me to tell you any of your
Thanks, Marilyn.
No, I can't. That's
The person behind the bishop.
Yeah.
More of this for you than what we know,
That's
right? That's for sure. We got sit down. We got one more. You think you're through, but you're not. Get down. Here. Okay. You had a couple people also to bring back another missionary companion of yours, and you're musically and talented, and you formed a group. And we brought that group back here to sing for us tonight, just a little bit impromptu. And it's Bob Moffat and Jay Moyes. Where they at? Are they out here? And there? One's right there.
One
Two of
is.
us?
Bob's not here yet.
Jay.
Bob's late as usual.
Come sing to us, Jay.
I have no idea where he is.
Right on time.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Yeah.
No.
No. Yeah.
Well, it's probably not gonna hurt.
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid
I haven't practiced, but I assume somebody.
Several times, yeah.
These kids know practice.
Should we have practiced?
Oh, yeah.
I know, it's
Let's go, Dave.
Good job. Good. I just had to. It's running.
Like their father.
Tammy, right
Where you gonna stay in her house?
Singing.
Going to
We'll give it a try here.
I have to, I'll stall for a minute here to see if Bob shows up. I have to tell one story. We've done a lot of this together, and with just about as much rehearsal as we've had tonight. Not as much rehearsal as we usually have. But we have a song that Bob's always coming up with interesting arrangements, and we sort of create these interesting arrangements. And some of you have heard us do an arrangement of Silent Night. And it's kind of a bizarre one. It's based on the one that Mannheim Steamroller does on the tape. And it has this really bizarre chord at the beginning of it. And we were scheduled to do this at the big time state Christmas concert. And Bob's supposed to play, he's going to play the opening chord. He's supposed to strike this chord. It just has to be just right because it gets us started off right. So we're up there the whole state Christmas concert. Bob gets up there and goes, and we look and we kind of look at each other and say, whoa, well, what do we do now? You know, it was completely the wrong chord. It wasn't even close. It was all we could do to keep from
laughing
the gas.
ruining
It's supposed to be a solemn, sober song.
They're supposed to go. The second chord is the one I bought, this one. And I was one finger and one fret off. And I'm thinking,
And we were a cappella after that point.
Yeah.
We started out singing without any instruments, so that is what sets the chord that we work from. And we never have figured out what he ended up
but
with.
it was ugly.
It wasn't the right one. Well, let's go ahead and try something.
What it takes, Julia, what it takes your hands
To lead a better life, I need my love to be here. Here, making each day of a year, changing my life with a wave of the hand. Nobody can deny.
evil. I am in love with you. I'll bring fire in the winter. You send flowers in the spring. We'll fight through the falls and summers with love on our wings. Through the years as the fire starts to mellow, burning lines in the book of our lives, though the binding cracks and the pages start to yellow, I'll be in love with you. I am in love with you. And everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. You want to go ahead and do. Will you guys sing Prime and Pump? All right, dear folks. Well, I was traveling west to Buckeye on my way to a cow run. Across that dusty cactus desert under a hot Arizona sun. I was thirsty right down to my toenails, so I stopped to rest me on a stump. Hey, I tell you, I couldn't believe it when I saw a water pump. Well, I took it to be a Mirage at first, you know, it'll fool a thirsty man. But then I saw this note stuck in a baking powder can. Well, this pump is old, the note began, but you work, so give her a try. I put a new sucker washer in, but you may find the leather dry. You've got to find the pump, you must have faith and believe. You got to give all of yourself before you're worthy to receive. Drink all the water you can hold, wash your face, twiddle your feet, leave that bottle full for others, make candy desert feet. Yeah, you gotta pray, that pump, use your handle like there's a fire. Under a rock you'll find some water I left in a bitter jar. But there's just enough to prime it with, so don't you go drinking first. Just pour it in and pump like mad, and buddy, you'll quench your thirst. You've got to prime the pump, you must have faith and believe. You got to give of yourself before you're worthy to receive. Drink all the water you can hold, wash your face, cool your feet, leave that bottle full for others, make candy desert meat. Well, I found that bottle, and I'll tell you, nothing was prettier to my eye. I was tempted strong to drink it. Now that pump looked mighty dry. But the note went on. Have faith, my friend, there's water down below. You've got to give before you get. It's a love life, you know. So I poured it in and I started pumping. And I heard a beautiful sound, a water gushing and a bubbling out of that hole in the ground. You've got to find the pump, you must have faith and believe. You got to give of yourself before you're worthy to receive. Drink all the water you can hold, wash your face, cool your feet, leave that bottle full for others, then you can be desert meat. You've got to find the pump, you must have faith and believe. You've got to give all yourself before you're worthy to receive.
receive. Drink all the water you can hold, wash your face, cool your feet. Leave that bottle full for others, thank kindly Desert Pete. You've got to prime the pump, you must have faith and believe. You've got to give of yourself before you're worthy to receive. Drink all the water you can hold, wash your face, cool your feet. Leave that bottle full for others, thank kindly Desert Pete. Drink all the water you can hold, wash your face, cool your feet. Leave that bottle full for others, thank kindly Desert Pete.
Thank you.
Is that it?
You can do one more if you want.
We're a whole repertoire.
Okay, wait, hold on. We have another story real quick. Jeanette, Sister Marsh would like to tell another story real quick.
Uh-oh.
Can we come up there?
I want to know if there's a connection between these two, the missionary companion and the best friend.
No. This what you've never seen it before.
This is the story that we've got to tell. See, I knew Bob all these long years, and when he went on his mission, like a nice friend, I was writing him letters, even though I was going to school at BYU. I got a letter just after I had sent him one for his birthday, and he wrote back and he said, you know, while you're there at BYU, one of these days you might run into my senior companion, the very first companion I had on my mission, because he went back and he's at BYU right now. So you just might find him, and then in parentheses he put, ha, because there were like 25,000 students there. His name is Jack Marsh. Well, Jack and I just happened to be in the same ward, and his roommate was in the family home evening group that I was a part of. They had set us up together. So I had just barely met Jack. It was at the beginning of the school year, and I had met him, and I knew who he was. And I said, I know him, I know him, I know him. And the next time we went over, my roommate and I went over to leave cookies for Jack's roommate, who was in our ward family. And Jack was there, and I said, you know somebody that I know, and sat down and started talking. Now that was really unusual for me because I was very shy, and I didn't talk very well to boys that I didn't know. But laughing, I was too. But because Jack had known Bob, we sat down and I started telling him stories about Bob, and he started telling me stories about Elder Llewellyn. And we just struck up a really good friendship, and a couple of, no, it's longer than a couple months, not much longer, a couple months later, we wrote him a letter together telling him we were engaged and we were going to be married. So he always claimed it was his responsibility.
We just want to thank everybody for coming. We want to thank the bishop for his neat life that we can portray. Stay put, please. I haven't dismissed nothing. We're going to turn the time back over to David. Is David here? Did he leave? Yeah.
Can I just say something?
And stay here for refreshments. Do not leave. Refreshments should be served in here. No.
This is clearly one of the nicest evenings I've ever had in my life. And I just want to thank you all. Appreciate all those who've come. Brother, Sister Inman, Sister Marsh, my parents, Jay and Susan. If I'm missing anybody who's come special, and all you kids, the leaders. This is very, very nice. I really want to thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank everyone for coming here and putting up chairs. Dear Heavenly Father, please us that we all go home and say thankful for all the blessings you give to us. Please us the refreshments.
Thank you. My mom went to